going into the next section, let's think about some of the secondary features of beta cells, specifically amylin and GABA. How are those, what are the details about amylin and GABA that we can kind of stack on top of the things needed to actually get those beta cells to regenerate, to create some inertia in the right direction?
So with this extra section on amylin and GABA, I just want to make sure that we are dotting our I's and crossing our T's when it comes to understanding what they are, how they act in a healthy state as well as in a diabetic state, and then what are some things that we can do to actually address their loss and their regain. So we know amylin slows down digestion to make sure that our beta cells don't get overloaded with incoming food, incoming blood sugar. People with type 1 diabetes do not have that ability to control how quickly food is moving through our system. And this leads to too rapid of digestion, too quick of a glucose spike after we eat, and there's no control of our appetite, so we tend to overeat, and this just exacerbates that rapid digestion and that rapid post-meal blood spike. And so a lot of systems at play here, right? With that amylin, it's acting on the brain, which acts on the stomach. Amylin also influences the liver because now, there's no control of the glucagon after a meal. Like, there's nothing telling it to stop when we take in food. So how can we actually address it? There are synthetic forms of amylin. It's called Pramlintide. This mimics amylin's effects. It's typically prescribed in cases of type 2 diabetes, kind of like as an appetite suppressant to make sure that people with type 2 don't overeat. For those with type 1, you really kind of have to go the manual route. This can be helped with high fiber and protein-rich meals to naturally slow digestion. Fiber is something that slows down digestion. Protein is something that's going to naturally make you feel full. So there's ways that you can kind of build an amylin-like response based on the food that you're taking in. And then GABA, right? It's not just a neurotransmitter. Influences inflammation, regulates inflammation, protects beta cells, modulates glucagon secretion from alpha cells to make sure that our blood sugars aren't unnecessarily spiking. And then it can actually promote beta cell replication, survival, the conversion of alpha cells to beta cells. And in type 1 diabetes, we lose all of this. So our inflammation gets exacerbated. We lose the ability to influence our nervous system to promote beta cell health, and does not bode well for our blood sugars and the survival of our remaining beta cells. So how can we leverage GABA for beta cell health? I've got this nice little graph over here of foods rich in GABA. Go ahead and read that. Early studies suggest it may reduce inflammation and promote beta cell regeneration if you supplement GABA directly. There's lots of different ways that you can do this. I use Thorne has a GABA supplement. I'm also experimenting with something called N-nicotinyl GABA, which is a synthetic formation of nicotinamide or niacinamide, which is vitamin B3, and GABA, which promotes its uptake through the blood-brain barrier and makes it more readily available. Nutritional support, things like magnesium, B6, and GABA. There seems to be a kind of like a trifecta of those three that influences GABA's natural production. So you can see here, just in this graph, GABA is not far away from a food standpoint, right? All of these things are going to help your body naturally produce its own. And then in a state of disease, when you lose amylin and GABA, it's really hard for your body to naturally control the inflammation that is destroying your beta cells, which is destroying the production of even more amylin and GABA. So the digestion, the glucose spikes, the inability to control your own appetite is going to lead to more inflammation, more overproduction of glucagon, which is going to cause even more hyperglycemia. And this just leads to more and more beta cells. So this is beta cell stress, which is just one of those feedback loops where things start to run out of control. So we need comprehensive strategies that are addressing both the hormonal and inflammatory nature of these imbalances and their impacts on beta cells. So the body wants more amylin and more GABA. So as we approach kind of this regenerative aspect of beta cells, we need to start to implement these ways of either synthetically mimicking amylin and GABA or empowering our body in any way that we possibly can to boost its own natural production of these things so that it can kind of stop the inertia working against beta cells and start to turn it going in the opposite direction.
So I've spent a good amount of time on amylin and GABA driving home why they're so influential and why they're so important. And I think the most important thing we can take from that last section is there are ways, lifestyle factors, dietarily, things that we can do to help our body mimic the effects of amylin, mimic the effects of GABA, whether it be fibrous and protein-rich foods, kind of keeping us full and slowing the food down so that our insulin has time to react, or with GABA, making sure that we have alternative ways of regulating our nervous system and that we're eating things that are fighting oxidation the way GABA would. That's such an important step that we can be taking in an effort to support beta cells.